Okay, imagine this. What if one of Egypt's most powerful kings, a guy who ruled for over 4 decades, left behind a legacy not of unity, but of division? We're talking about a pharaoh from the literal dawn of history, whose biggest move might have been to break his own kingdom right in two. But here's the real kicker. The question that flips the entire story on its head. What if he meant to do it? What if that split wasn't a failure, but a brilliant, calculated, strategic masterstroke? To really get this, we have to go way back. We're talking the second dynasty of Egypt, around 2700 BCE. And you have to understand, this was a super fragile and honestly dangerous time for the kingdom. A lot of uncertainty in the air. Yeah, so that golden age of the first dynasty, it was fading, and fading fast. The kingdom was just creaking under all this pressure. You had political tension, internal power struggles, maybe even famine. This wasn't some peaceful throne just waiting for a new king. Nope. This was a kingdom teetering right on the edge of total chaos. And right into this storm steps our main character, the 11th ruler of the dynasty, a pharaoh named Nynetjer. And he inherits all of it, all that pressure, all that instability. So how long do you think he lasted? Some estimates say he ruled for over 40 years. I mean, just let that sink in. 40 years, in an era of complete turmoil and uncertainty.
And a reign that long tells you something incredibly important. Weak kings do not last for decades, especially not back then. They get overthrown, they get erased from history, they just disappear. But Nynetjer, he didn't disappear. He endured.
So, how in the world did he do it? How did he hold a kingdom that was falling apart together for so long? Well, the answer wasn't just brute force. It was something way more sophisticated. It was all about structure. Nynetjer basically built an administration machine. He beefed up the state bureaucracy. He organized these huge religious festivals to bring people together, and he doubled down on the royal ceremonies and temple systems that were like the very backbone of Egyptian society.
And here's the crucial point, right? Nynetjer got a fundamental lesson of leadership. Real, lasting power doesn't just come from having a big army. It comes from building solid systems. It comes from creating a structure that can handle pretty much any pressure you throw it at.
But after his incredibly long reign, something really dramatic happened. All the evidence suggests that Egypt split, going back to being 2 separate kingdoms, Upper and Lower Egypt. For the longest time, everyone saw this as the ultimate failure of his rule. But was it? And this, my friends, brings us to the central mystery.
So historians basically have 2 competing ideas. On one hand, you've got the crisis theory. The kingdom just got too big, too complicated, and it collapsed under its own weight from things like famine and paperwork overload. But then, there's theory 2, which is way more radical. It suggests Nynetjer himself planned the split, that it was an act of strategic decentralization. This reframes him not as a failure, but as a brilliant, forward-thinking strategist.
Think about it like this. Imagine a CEO today running a massive company that's just getting too big to handle. It's at risk of totally collapsing. What's the smart move? Well, sometimes it's a strategic split. You break it into 2 smaller, leaner, more agile divisions. Each one can be managed better, and you ensure the survival of the whole thing. That's the core argument for Nynetjer's vision.
So which one is it? Was the division of Egypt just an accident born from chaos, or was it the grand design of a master architect? Let's take another look at the evidence.
When we look at his huge tomb at Saqqara, we don't see any signs of chaos. What we see are countless seals with administrative markings. It all points to one thing: control, organization, and structure. Even in death, his whole system screams of a guy who is obsessed with order. Which brings us right back to our big question. Was Nynetjer the king whose reign ended in the failure of a broken Egypt? Or was he the visionary king who actually saved it from total collapse by having the foresight to redesign the entire system?
It's a pretty powerful thought. You know, history loves to remember the great conquerors, the people who build huge monuments. But maybe the real saviors of empires aren't the conquerors at all, but the architects, the ones who design the systems that let those empires last.
And maybe that's the ultimate lesson from Nynetjer's long-lost reign. That sometimes, whether it's for a business, a country, or a massive empire, the most powerful and courageous move a leader can make is knowing when it's time to divide in order to survive.